All right, so if we combine everything that Jimmy is showing us in his awesome solo, then we can make a line that sounds kind of like this. Jimmy Rainey was one of jazz guitar's great unsung masters. His style effortlessly blended modern harmony with great bebop-infused lines. In this lesson, I'm going to show you some of his ridiculously hip concepts and lines that will transform your playing. Let's get into it. So for this lesson, I'm going to be looking at lines from his great solo off Billy's Bounce from his record, The Master. This lesson was also a request from my Patreon from the user Rob. So if you would like to be involved in that community, make sure to find the link to that below. So our first ridiculously hip Jimmy Rainey lick sounds like this. That's so killin'. Let's unpack it a little bit. So the first part is based on a great pattern used over minor chords that is around the chord tones 1, 3, 4, and 5. This could be played going forwards or going backwards, and could be easily put into a 2-5-1 line like this. Jimmy adds to this pattern and puts a blue note in there just to make it sound a little bit bluesier. Now this next part is super interesting. What Jimmy is doing here is he's playing an A-flat minor triad over D, or in this case D7. So this sound comes out of the diminished scale and can be easily applied by just playing a minor 7 triad off the tritone. So the tritone of D is A flat if we go up. Now what's even cooler is if we look at how he's using this, we can see something really simple that we can apply instantly. So he's playing this over a 2-5-1 going to G. So in this case, how he's using it is he's taking that 2 chord, being A minor, and he moves it down a half step for the D7. So the last part of this first line comes from something called the tritone substitute. All this is when you play a dominant chord off the tritone of the dominant chord you're playing. So unlike the last one where we played a minor triad off that tritone, this time we're just playing a dominant 7 chord. In the case of our line, Jimmy is using G flat 7 over C7 to create that tritone sub, and he does this using what we call the honeysuckle rose lick. And then he finishes the line with this great motif. This is hit because it comes from the diminished scale, just like our A-flat minor triad did. So what that means is that you can take this motif, which is just played over, again, C7 going to F, and we can move this motif in minor thirds, and each one will work over C7. If we combine all the concepts that Jimmy is showing us in this first line, we can create our own lines that sound kind of like this. So our next ridiculously hip Jimmy Rainey line sounds like this. So the main idea that's going on here is the concept of side slipping. This is simply when you take an idea and play it either up or down from our target chord. So for example, if we had a C major 7 chord, we could play a D flat major 7 chord over it, and then resolve it down a half step back to that C. So the way Jimmy uses this concept in this line is applying it to a 5-1 progression, that being F7 going to B flat. So what he's doing is he's playing off the 2 chord of the B flat being F minor. So he's targeting the F minor 7, that's where he wants to go. So what he does is he side slips up on the F7 and just plays G flat minor 7. So G flat minor 7, going to F minor 7. You could of course do this with arpeggios and it would sound really great. But Jimmy does it with this nice minor 9 lick. So we could take this concept and easily make our own lines with it. So take any line that you know and just play it up a half step from where it's originally supposed to be played. Take this classic 2/5 line for example. Now just play it up a half step. Or find ways to change it up the second time you play it. Alright, so our last ridiculously hip Jimmy Rainey line sounds like this. This line is super beautiful and shows us some great ways to play the natural extensions of a dominant chord. What I mean by natural extensions are, unlike our last couple examples, are notes that are diatonic within our dominant chord. These are the natural 9 and the 13. Jimmy brings both of these notes out by playing this great guitar shape over this dominant chord that hits both the 9 and the 13. Then you'll notice at the end he plays an A flat major 7 arpeggio over our B flat dominant chord. Though this arpeggio doesn't have the 3rd in it, it still outlines the 9 and the 13 of our B flat 7 chord. So what this tells us is that we could play a major 7 arpeggio off the flat 7 degree of the dominant chord that we're playing over, and it'll add these nice color tones to it. You can also mix the arpeggios of the A flat major 7 and the B flat dominant 7 together to get that 3rd in there. So you can see that Jimmy is really a master at taking sounds and being able to play them whatever way he wants to. He could play something beautiful or something really tense and still make it work. This is something that we want to strive for in our own playing. Ask yourself, do you know why something sounds the way it does? And can you replicate it in your own playing? I want to close this lesson by demonstrating all the concepts that we talked about over one chorus on the Great Standard Tune-Up. If you'd like the guitar profile, as well as the PDF for not only this etude, but every example that we covered in this lesson, then make sure to subscribe to my Patreon, which you can find linked in the video description below. Alright, thank you for watching this lesson about Jimmy Rainey's ridiculously hip concepts. If there's a guitarist you'd like me to analyze in the future, make sure to let me know in the comment section below. Also, shout out to my Patreons. Thank you guys so much. You're really the foundation of this channel, and you keep it going. Thank you.